the Select Committee, Mel Stride.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I broadly welcome my right honourable friend's statement? The devil, of course, will always be in the detail, and we look forward to seeing him before the Treasury Select Committee next week, along with the OBR and various economists, including the IFS, to which my right honourable friend has alluded. I welcome the cut to fuel duty. It will help both motorists and consumers. It will be important for businesses as well. The VAT reduction around energy efficiency and solar, I think, is very important in terms of the context of the sanctions on Russia at the moment and the importance of energy self-sufficiency where we can achieve it. The hardship fund will be a very targeted measure as well, which I think is important, and I know that small businesses will be delighted to have heard about the increase in the employment allowance to £5,000, which is a key ask of the Federation of Small Businesses. I, along with many others in this House, would like to have seen the national, the NI increases for next year to have been scrapped in their entirety, but I have to say that the increase in the threshold that my right honourable friend has announced today has been very significant indeed, and far more significant than I imagined that it would be. The big question that my right honourable friend, of course, will be asked will be within the context of the fiscal targets that I think we're all agreed we need to meet. Has he used enough of that headroom now, as opposed to having it as a hedge against the uncertainties of the future, to which he alluded and which are very real around inflation and interest rates and the effect of that on the cost of borrowing to the government? So I just wonder whether I could ask him to speak a little bit more about his fiscal headroom. He will have had the advantage of seeing the OBR figures, which I have not, and what his assessment is of that, particularly around the deficit target. Secondly, Madam Deputy Speaker, on the issue of growth, when my right honourable friend has pointed out the OBR downgrades, which are not surprising in a high inflationary environment, and the effect that that will have on consumer demand, the dampening effect, I was very pleased that he referenced his May's lecture, because it is going to be essential that we now focus on innovation, on people, and driving up capital investment. My right honourable friend made reference, I think, to a consultation around how to improve capital investment, where we do currently lag behind our competitors in the G7. And I wonder if he could tell us a little bit more about the timeline for that consultation and when he expects to be able to provide important certainty for businesses in that respect.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank my honourable friend for his words of support. Just to briefly address his two substantive questions. The tax plan published today in the Spring Statement document has a range of options for how one could cut taxes on investment. I look forward to having that conversation with him, colleagues and the business community about the right way to achieve the outcome we want, with final decisions to be announced in the autumn budget to take effect in spring 2023 after the super deduction ends. I won't get into the detail of them now. With regard to headroom, we have about 1% of GDP headroom against both the stock and the flow rule, so both the debt falling and the borrowing rule. On the borrowing side, that's about in line with previous chancellors. On the stock rule, it's a bit less. The average over the last decade has been about 1.7%. But what I would say to him is the headroom includes the tax cut in 2024, so that has been fully paid for and costed in these numbers. So I do believe we're taking a responsible and pragmatic approach. But he's right to point out the risks. The OBR have said that relatively small changes in the macroeconomic outlook could wipe out the entire headroom, which is why it's right we continue to be disciplined on public spending.
Order. I would like to try to get everybody